Hello there, it is Dr. Siobhan Parat here, founder of Relatable, and I'm super excited to come to you today and talk about an important message given this time of the year. So today is Holy Saturday, right? Today's Holy Saturday, which means that yesterday was Good Friday, which means over 2,000 years ago, Jesus was crucified and died, right? And we know the story. We know how things end. And tomorrow is Easter Sunday, which is Resurrection Sunday, which means that he rose again. And so, I come to you today on the in-between day, right? On this Holy Saturday, where yesterday there was death, and tomorrow there is life forevermore. And I was really thinking about, the concept of the resurrection and marriage. And in talking with so many women and talking with so many couples, they're in this place where their marriage feels like it's been crucified, where their marriage is dead, has been, just beat up from every direction. The relationship they have with each other is lacking any signs of life, right? They are feeling so disconnected. They are feeling so angry and bitter and resentful of each other. People are feeling lonely and betrayed. And it looks like there's nothing to salvage, right? It looks like this is the end of the story, that there's nothing to change things for the better, that there's no hope. You may be finding yourself in a place where you are really on the verge of just giving up, where things have been so bad and the circumstances so traumatic or catastrophic or just frustrating that you can't see your way out and the situation looks completely dead. And I'm looking on my screen here with notes because this was such an important message that I didn't want to forget anything that I wanted to share with you, because this is such a critical time, right? So, as we think about what happened on, Good Friday, right? Think about being in that moment and being back in time where you really didn't know the outcome, right? So we can rejoice and we can be excited because we know what the outcome was. But imagine being transported back in time where you see, this man, this pinnacle of all that was good and holy, just, killed, right? Just killed. And, people in this day, right? This Holy Saturday, people were confused. They didn't know what to believe. They saw what they saw with their own eyes. They heard what they heard. And they didn't know what was going to happen. And maybe you're in that place in your marriage too, where things look dead and you don't know how the story is going to end. And maybe you're feeling really, depressed about it. Maybe you're feeling really hopeless about it. And I just wanted to share a few of the lessons that I think the, biblical crucifixion and resurrection can show us and teach us as we think about maybe being in this in-between phase in our marriage. And I wanted to take some of the lessons that I think Jesus would want us to know right now, if you find yourself in that place, right? Because he was in a place just the same, where he knew that things were not looking good. Of course, he knew the outcome, but he still had to travel that road. And so the first lesson that I think we can apply to marriages is that Jesus had a larger purpose, right? So he knew that what he was doing and the struggle and the pain that he would experience was not just about him, right? He had his eye on the prize of being the savior of the whole world. And I wanted to just offer that lens and that perspective, that if you find yourself in this in-between phase in your marriage where it feels like things are dead, that you really look at the larger purpose, that you look beyond yourself, that you consider your children, that you consider some reason why it's worth saving, some reason why it's worth working to resurrect, right? And, Jesus wasn't concerned about who betrayed him. He wasn't concerned about who believed in him. He wasn't keeping score of any of that. And so many times in our marriages, we end up in these dead places because we are keeping score, because we're going, and we're looking for all the ways our husbands are disappointing us. We're looking for all the ways that they fell short. We're counting up all of their betrayals, all of the disappointments, and we're not keeping our eye on that bigger picture, right? So Jesus knew that people would sin and would fall short and would betray him. And he still extended grace and forgiveness to them. And he could do that because he had a bigger purpose. He had his eye on the bigger picture of things. And so when we get so caught up in this tunnel vision of what's going wrong and what our husbands are not doing that we want them to be doing, we get very focused on the details and we lose sight of the bigger picture and the bigger purpose and the bigger legacy that our marriage is supposed to represent, the bigger message that our marriage can share with the world. And that world starts most times right in your own family, right? Your children are watching. And so keep your eye on them and take it off yourself, right? So that's lesson number 1. Keep your eye on the bigger picture. Lesson number 2 is that Jesus trusted God's plan, right? He didn't have any question for the purpose of his life, the purpose of his death, and the purpose of his resurrection. And the same I want to offer for you as you think about your marriage. You have to trust God's plan for your marriage. There is a reason that you and your husband were brought together. There is something you were supposed to be learning. There's some way you are supposed to be growing. There is something that both of you are supposed to be creating out of this union together. And you've got to trust the process. You've got to trust that God is leading you, that he's molding you, that he's shaping you, even in this time where things feel dead, even in this time where the pain is sometimes unbearable. You've got to endure and you've got to trust that there is something greater on the other side of this, that this is just for a season. It is not the end of your story, right? You know that all things work together for your good. And so trust God's plan for your marriage. Trust the place that he has you and your husband right now, even though it's uncomfortable, even though it's painful, even though it's difficult. Trust his plan. Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3 is some things have to die before they fulfill their destiny, right? So there was no resurrection without the crucifixion. And if you're in this dead place in your marriage, some things have to die. Some habits have to die. Some ways of thinking have to die. Some expectations have to die. Your focus on yourself may have to die. Your seeking your husband to fulfill all of your needs has to die, right? Because out of that death, then you can breathe new life. Then you can create a new marriage that is better, that is stronger, that is really the ultimate fulfillment of what you and your husband are supposed to be doing and experiencing together. But for things to get better, for things to change, for things to be truly transformed, you've got to let go of doing things the way that you have always done them. You've got to let go of thinking the way that you have always thought, right? So you need to transform your mind. You need to transform your interactions, your attitudes, your behaviors. Old things must pass away, right? So that new things can be created. So that's point number 3, that some things have to die in order for you to fulfill your destiny. So think about what needs to die in your marriage so that new life can breathe again and be created in the relationship with your husband. Okay. Number 4 is Jesus knew how to endure the pain, right? So I often find myself, when I was a younger kid, I would just almost go into convulsions thinking about the pain that he must have experienced on that cross. And that took incredible strength, and it took incredible endurance. And we as human beings now, we as modern people in this modern world, we are so uncomfortable being uncomfortable. We want a quick fix to our pain, issues and problems that may have been festering in our marriage for months or years. We want them resolved like that, in the snap of a finger, right? We're in this like microwave society where if it doesn't happen quickly, we give up. We have no endurance. We have no perseverance, right? And so I think the message that as we think about being in this in-between time and we look at Christ as an example is to have endurance, to just endure, to know that it's going to hurt, to know that it's going to be painful. But again, when you trust God's plan, when you know that there's a greater purpose for what you are experiencing, you can endure it, right? We know that Jesus could have come down off that cross, right? And likewise, we think for ourselves, we could just leave, right? We could just leave. Like, I don't have to keep putting up with this. I hear that so many times from people. Like, I'm not happy. He's not trying. I'm just going to leave, right? But the model that we have been given is to endure, and endure with faith and hope and a positive expectation that something greater is on the other side of the pain that you may be experiencing. Okay? And the last point is that, Jesus didn't have a plan B. It wasn't like, oh, I'll just let this happen, and if it doesn't, like, I'll create some miracle and like work myself out of this, right? He had no other plan. He completely submitted to the will of God. He wasn't plotting and thinking about, well, if this becomes too much for me, I'll just bring myself down. No, there was no other option. And so many times in our marriages, we give ourselves options. We, give ourselves the option of leaving. We give ourselves the option of just being miserable and coexisting. But that's not why marriage was created. That's not why you and your husband said I do and made these vows to each other. It was to live a life of happiness, right? Of service, of destiny, of forever. And so we give ourselves permission to have this plan B, and we don't persevere. We don't trust God's plan. We don't keep in mind the bigger picture. And so I just wanted to offer those perspectives and those lessons that we can take from the crucifixion in this in-between time, right? You may be in that in-between time right now where things are so bad and things feel so dead, and you're not sure if it's going to be resurrected. And I just want to offer that if you can keep in mind the larger purpose, if you can trust God and his plan, if you can let some things die so that new things can be born, if you endure the pain and persevere through it, and if you give yourself no other option but success, then you will have the resurrection of your marriage. You will have that glorious, loving, fulfilling, God-honoring relationship that you and your husband have been called to have. And so that's what I have for you today. Again, Holy Saturday, the moment in between death and life. And I wanted to just offer these 5 life-saving, resurrecting examples that we can take from the crucifixion and resurrection of Christ for you and your marriage. So I know that this was a very deep, deep message today, but it's a deep time, right? It's a deep time, and you've got to reflect on what's happening. You've got to really be aware of your perspective and how you are seeing things, and how you can literally create and bring back to life something that seems dead. We have a model of how it can happen. And those are the lessons that I wanted to share with you today. So if this is your first time seeing me, Hello, let me properly introduce myself to you. I am Dr. Siobhan Parad. I am a relationship expert and marriage coach, and I work with women to help them develop the mindset and skills to create a happier and more loving marriage, all without having to make over that husband. So I believe the quickest way to your own personal happiness, the fastest route to improving your marriage, starts with a good look in the mirror. And the way that I do that is by offering one-on-one coaching. I offer group coaching as well as virtual programs and digital products. And so you can find out all about my work. You can read my blog, listen to my audio messages, connect with me deeply by visiting my website, and that is berelatable.com. So thank you so much for tuning in to this video. I hope that this message really resonated with you and that you will take it with you and look forward to the life that will be resurrected in your marriage very soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.